hot bar. Plate after plate of macaroni and beef were consumed that evening. I tell you, in all 4 heaping plates of pseudo-Italian ambrosia were shoved into my belly, I was sated, perhaps a little too much, however. I had not really been feeling well all day, with a big gas and such. By the time I had eaten 4 overwhelmed plates of food, I was in a real trouble. There was so much pressure on my diaphragm that I was having trouble breathing. At the same time, the downward pressure was building. God damn it!
Failure!
I want to hear the rest of this.
At first I thought it was only gas, which could have been passed in batches. Right at the table, without much concern.
Read the rest of it. Read the rest of it.
Oh, there's so much more.
Unfortunately,
I can do it.
That was not to be. After a minute or so, it was clear that I was dealing with explosive diarrhea. Okay, you try reading that line without laughing.
Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. Have him unmute
No,
me.
you won't.
I'll do it.
No, no,
yes,
no.
I will.
I already unmuted you. No, you won't.
Okay, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it.
If you've never read it before, then no. I'm finishing.
I see.
It's amazing
Yeah,
how
we
Greece
failed
can
already.
make it. Yeah, I don't care.
Okay,
I
okay,
don't
okay.
anything. It's you can you'll pick it up at I began the move. Is that fine with you?
Wait, I'm starting
you
it.
do it without laughing.
That's
No.
the best
When I
part,
say
too.
when I say I began the move, you start that next paragraph. Okay? You ready? It's amazing how grease can make its way through your intestines far faster than the food which spawned the grease to begin with. But I digress. I got up from the table and made my way to the bathroom. Upon entering, I saw 2 sinks immediately inside the door, 2 urinals just to the right of the sinks, and 2 toilet stalls against the back wall. One of them was handicapped bathroom. Now, I normally would have gone to the handicap stall since I like to stretch out a bit when I take a good shit. But in this case, the door lock was broken, and the only thing I hate worse than my wife telling me to stop cutting my toenails with a pair of diagonal wire cutters is having someone walk in me while I'm taking a shit. I went to the normal stall. In retrospective, I probably should have gone to a large handicap stall, even though the door would not lock, because the bit of time I lost in making the stall switch proved to be a bit too long under the circumstances. By the time I had walked into the regular stall, the pressure on my ass was reaching biblical proportions. I began the move.
For those women who may be reading this, let me take a moment to explain the move. Men know exactly what their bowels are up to at any given second, and when the time comes to empty the cache, a sequence of physiological events occurs that cannot be stopped under any circumstances. There is a move men make that involves simultaneously approaching the toilet, beginning the body turn to position one's ass toward the said toilet, hooking one's fingers into one's waistlines, and pulling down the pants while beginning to squat at the same time. It is a very fluid motion that, when performed properly, results in the flawless expulsion of shit at the exact same second that one's ass is properly placed on the toilet seat. Done properly, it even assures that the chode is properly inserted into the front rim of the toilet in the event that the piss stream lets loose at the center, ricocheted off the back of the seat and slammed into the wall at an angle of incidence equal to the angle at which it initially hit the toilet seat. Then I sat down.
Jesus Christ.
I'm still holding my
Still
humor in. Good.
Yeah,
Recall
barely.
that when that event occurred, I was already halfway to sitting anyway, and had actually reached the point of no return. I've always considered myself as relatively stable gravitationally, but when you get beyond a certain point, you're going down no matter how limber you may be. Needless to say, the shit wave, though of considerable force, was not so sufficient so as to completely glance off the toilet seat and deposit itself on the walls, like what you would see when hitting a puddle with high pressure water hose. Even though you throw water at the puddle gets moved and no water is left to reform the puddle. There was a significant amount of shit remaining on about 1/3 of the seat rim, which I had now just collapsed upon. Now back to the vomit. While all the shitting was going on, the vomit was still on its way up. By the time I had actually collapsed on the toilet, my mouth had filled up with a goodly portion of the macaroni and beef I had just consumed. Okay, so what does the human body instinctively do when vomiting? One bends over. So I bent over. I was still sitting on the toilet though. Therefore, bending over resulted in me placing my head above my now slightly opened legs, positioned in between my knees and waist. Also directly above my pants, which were now pulled down to a point just midway between my knees and ankles. Oh, did I mention that I was wearing not just pants, but sweatpants with an elastic on the ankle? Oh, I can see where this is going.
Ah! You laughed.
Damn.
Well
In one mighty push, some 3 pounds of macaroni and beef, 2 or 3 Cokes, and a couple of big fat yeast rolls were deposited in my pants, on the inside, with no ready exit at the bottom, down by my feet. In the next several seconds there were a handful of farts, a couple of turds, and the event ended. Yet I was now sitting there, with my pants full of vomit, my back covered in shit that had bounced off the toilet, spattered on the 3 ceramic tiled walls, to a height of about 5 feet, and still had enough force to come back at me, covering the back of my shirt with droplets of liquid shit. All while thick shit was spread all over my ass in a ring curiously in the shape of a toilet seat. And there was no fucking toilet paper. What could I do but laugh? I must have sounded like a complete maniac to the guy who was then wandering into the bathroom. He actually asked if I was okay since I was laughing so hard I must have sounded like I was crying hysterically. I calmed down just enough to ask him if he would get the manager, and told him to have the manager bring some toilet paper. When the manager walked in, he brought the toilet paper with him, but in no way was prepared for what happened next. I simply told him there was no way I was going to I simply told him that there was no way I was going to explain what was happening in the stall, but that I needed several wet towels and needed him to go ask my wife to come help me. I told him where we were sitting, and he left. At that point, I think he was probably assuming that I had pissed just a bit in my pants, or something similarly benign. About 2 minutes later, my wife came into the bathroom, not knowing what was wrong, with a certain amount of worry in her voice. I explained to her, still laughing and having trouble getting words out, that I had a slight accident and needed her help. Knowing that I had experienced some close calls in the past, she probably assumed I had laid down a small turd or something and just needed her to bring the car around so we could bolt immediately. Until I asked her.
Delighted.
I'm sure she had no idea that she was about to go across the street and purchase me new underwear, new socks, new pants, new shirt, and by that time, due to considerable leakage around the elastic ankle thighs, new sneakers. And she then started to laugh herself since I was still laughing. She began to ask for an explanation as to what had happened when I promised her that I will tell her later, but that I just needed to handle damage control for the time being. She left. Wow,
Damage
long
control.
story. Damage control.
Yeah!
The manager then came back in with half a dozen wet towels and a few dry ones. I asked him to also bring a mop and bucket, upon which he assured me that they would clean up anything that needed to be cleaned. Without giving him specific details, I explained that what was going on in that stall that night was far in excess of what I would expect anyone to do. Folks were just slightly above. At that moment, I think it dawned on him exactly the gravity of the situation. Then, that manager went so far above the call of duty that I would be eternally grateful for his actions. He hooked up a hose.
Oh, he's laughing without the mic on.
Yeah, I guess I am. No, yeah, whatever. Fortunately, commercial bathrooms are constructed with tile walls and tile floors, and have a drain in the middle of the room in order to make cleanup easy. Fortunately, I was in a commercial bathroom. He hooked up the hose to the spigot under the sink as I began to clean myself up with the wet towels. Just as I was finishing, my wife got back with the new clothes and passed them into the stall, whereupon I stuffed the previously worn clothing into the plastic bag that came from the store. Handing the bag to my wife, I finished cleaning myself off and carefully put on my new clothes, still stuck in the stall since I figured that it would be in bad taste to go out of the stall to get redressed in the event. I happened to be standing there naked. Wait, I fucked that one up. I finished cleaning myself off and carefully put on my new clothes, still stuck in the stall since I figured that it would be in bad taste to go out of the stall to get redressed in the event, so I would be standing there naked, and some little bastard kid walked in. At that point, I was in a mess. I had not yet committed a felony and intended to do it that way. When I finished getting dressed, I picked up the hose and cleaned up the entire stall, washing out the center of the room. I put the hose down and walked into the bathroom. I had intended to go to the bathroom. Three of the management staff were there to I started laughing so hard that I thought I was going to throw up again, but managed to scurry out to the car where my wife was now waiting to pick me up by the front door. The upshot of all this is that I started dinner at Ryan's Steakhouse. They have by far the nicest management staff of any restaurant in which I have eaten.